time has finally come to put in the ceiling, and this is only 1/4 inch cedar. It's really small, really thin, so I'm sure it's gonna be a bitch, but I've kind of got it propped up right now to kind of give me an idea of the length. I'm going to cut on the end here. There's the beam, so I'm going to cut in the middle of that beam, and that way I'll be able to tie on both sides, and then I'll do one strip in the front, one strip in the back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another layer on over the top for the seams, and I'm going to do that down the line in an even fashion, so it'll kind of be like accents coming down the roof, and into the front I'll have some accents on both sides of the fan, and then all the way at the front to kind of tie everything together. So I got this stuff at Lowe's. I can't remember how much it was. I think it was around 20 bucks per pack. And you get about 14 square feet. You get 6 pieces. It is 1/4 inch. You get the different edges on each side. I'm using the flat edge. So first I want to butt it up against the back here, and just gonna measure off the front here how much I need to cut off. So to the center of that is about 7 3/4. Okay, I got the first 3 pieces in, kind of working on getting a system down. It's been pretty tough so far just because they're so thin, and it's really hard to make sure you're not snapping off anything when you're trying to put it on. But so far it's been okay, so we'll just keep going with this. So the first thing I do is just get it propped up, just using this cardboard tube, this piece of wood, and I want to get my length, so I just use that. Make sure I got it all the way towards the back, since that does vary in length because it gets longer up here. So I want to make sure that the piece that I put on this back part is going to cover that edge. So I want to get that all the way back. Then I come up here, throw a tape on, and it's still looking like 7 3/4. And when you're cutting your scrap piece off of this to length, always look for imperfections like this. This one's got a crack maybe 3-4 inches down. Sometimes you'll be missing, your edge here, or your groove will be messed up in there. So make sure to check both ends, and you can make the appropriate decision on which side to take off. In which case, I'm going to take off the cracked side. Okay, so what you want to do is slide in down here and just keep progressing along while applying pressure inward and following the line. That might be kind of stubborn, but you just got to take your time. Scoot it down to the bottom, all the way to the edge. As I'm doing this myself, just kind of hold this end up. And you come down to the end. It should be pretty well in place. Give it some easy taps with a mallet to get it lined up. If you need to use any pressure to get it in, cut a piece of scrap and slide it in. And you can just give it a tap with the mallet to make sure it's set. Just be very gentle. And then we can move to fastening in place now. Okay, so what I'm using is some stainless steel 6 by 3/4 inch. It's like $6 at Lowe's, and it's got the flat top so that it will fall flush. And I do want to countersink it, so I do have my countersink bit, and I just set it up really high so I could just barely tap in to the piece of wood behind it, and then I'll countersink to allow this to lie flat. And then you could use a screwdriver to put it in. I've just been using this very easily. Just go really slow or you'll break through it, and then you gotta scrap the whole piece. So I just kind of take my line. Okay, of course. Fucking course. I'm so fucking stupid sometimes. Okay, now that we have this set in place, to put them in, I've just been using a driver, but you could use a screwdriver just to be more careful. With this, I'm just going really slow, getting it tapped in, and then setting it. So, first and foremost, you're just going to try to line up with your other screws. Just run an even line, find the middle. That's countersunk. And just very easy when you're putting this in. Just a little bit at a time until it snugs up close to the ceiling. You definitely don't want that driver to go into the impact mode. You could use, a drill on the slower speed to make sure you don't do that. Which is probably the smarter thing to do. But I've been so far so good just using this. And I'm pushing in while I screw in to make sure that I'm getting the best snug fit close into the next piece. So continue on down the line here. So it's a total of 4 screws holding each piece in, because I have the 4 ribs coming down the line. So I got this little 6-pack of lights off of Amazon. Little 3-watt, 12 volts. Pretty bright. I tested them out just to see how bright it would be. It fits a 2 1/8 inch hole, So you will have to have a 2 1/8 inch either hole saw or bit that can cut that size. And it comes with like these little plugs, but I'm gonna cut these off because I'm wiring it directly to my fuse box. Exits at these wires or these connectors. So when I cut these off, since those connectors are a bit bigger, I folded over the wire and kind of twisted it just to make it a little bit thicker, so when I crimp that, it's got a little more surface area to grab onto. I hope that'll be big enough, and it should be once I crimp everything on. So just gonna continue to prep these, get these ready, and then we'll put in the panel and put the holes in. So to cut the holes for the lights, you need about 2 1/8 inch, and then that little springy clip thing catches on the back. So what I got is a Forstner bit, 2 1/8 inch, and that cuts it damn near perfect. I tested it on a test piece, just a piece of scrap, and it fits well in there and snaps in place. Doesn't seem like it'll move much. So gonna drill out these holes now and the piece that's going to go on next, and then we'll get everything connected and set up in there. So I've got it measured out, and I've got the width in half so I can center it. What I'm using is just a scrap piece of wood to drill onto to support the whole thing so that it doesn't crack, or it cracks minimally, I guess, because this stuff is so thin. Not too bad. Okay, so now I'm going to carefully pop these suckers in, run the wires through. Got a couple pieces of 2x4 just to support on each side, so hopefully I don't snap the thing. And the last one, please don't snap. I'm a little worried for a second there. Okay, got all those in. Now we'll go slap it in. Okay, I gotta get these all wired up. Should be fun. So on these ones, the white, all white is the power. The one with the gray stripes is the ground. Those are such small wire. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it should be good. Alright, so the tricky part here is that I have to have my ceiling in before I can put this flange in for the fan. So right now I just have it propped up, and with these you do have to cut it yourself to length because they don't know what depth you're going to have in your specific van. So what I did is took a piece of the ceiling and just kind of laid it in there, and I'll probably go about a ½ inch below that point just to make sure I have enough space. So I'll basically be measuring from here to there and cutting off that amount plus about a ½ inch, and that way it should fall in flush and be able to be seated correctly. And the reason why I have to do this is because you have to also cut a hole for the wires to go through on this side, and I have to tuck that back up and in. So it's kind of a mess to try to do all that because I also want to seal in with the vapor barrier, so I want to foil tape all that to the wooden piece on the inside there as well. So cut that off and try to get something lined up with the wire here so that when I put all the wood slats in, I can slide this in, have everything all connected, and then I can be done with that portion. Well, the supervisor's asleep on the job, but got the fan connected here, got the wiring all hooked up so I can run that back in behind here and get this taped up. And the flange just kind of pushes up into this, and you get these wires just kind of out of the way, and the inside flange will just kind of, it won't push all the way up against these wires if you cut it to the correct length, and this will just kind of tuck up in there on the top and out of the way. So now I can tape my vapor barrier onto here and get that all set, and then we can move on to finishing up the ceiling. Okay, I finished the vapor barrier with the foil tape around the edges and then also into the wooden frame on the fan. So now I can start putting in the ceiling wood to finish up this front side. So I wanted to make sure I had that all sealed up before I started doing that. Okay, I got the first 3 set into place. Again, just wanted to get my system down. Got the 4th one ready to go. And basically all you're doing is measuring from that seam to the front ridge. That front ridge doesn't have to be perfect because that will be covered by trim once I put the main beam back on up front, the wood beam there. So then I'll put a trim piece in front of that to kind of cover that, those imperfections there. I just want to get it close to butted up to that steel piece on the front there. So fitting these in has been a bit easier just because they're shorter pieces, and slotting them in has been a little bit easier. Right now I am just putting in the screws back here because that will be tightened up by that trim piece that holds everything in place up front. And since the front edge is curved, you have to measure from the longest point to get what your longest part of the board should be. About 45 1/4. Cut that next piece at. Next thing is you're lining up the board, and you have to shave off little bits at a time depending on the curvature. Now this one looks like I should be fine. I could nip a little bit off this edge here, and what I've been doing for that is just marking it with a pen and following that contour. Just so you can get a good fitment. So you can see how they're all kind of cut off the corners because you have to make it fit inside that. So I'm only taking off a little bit on this one because it's one of the furthest points. You're just trying to slide it in on the end. And just kind of fit it in there. See, it's pretty easy compared to those long pieces that went right in. So this one lined up pretty good. That'll be covered up by the fan inner sleeve. So that won't be a big deal there. That'll all be covered up over to here. Now I have to fit in just small pieces to butt up next to that fan edge. So those are just short little baby pieces. You can probably use scrap if it's in good enough shape, because this will have probably 2 screws in it. Maybe I can get away with 1, but I probably do 2 just to hold it in snug. So I'll go cut a bunch of those little pieces. Okay, I got 2 in. I tried to put on the first one, it did split. I'm just gonna try the one and try to have this back end held up by the inside flange for the fan. And if I do that right, I can actually hold these in using those screws and everything should be fine. So I gotta run basically 3 more of these, well 2 more, and then I'm gonna have to custom cut this one, which will be fun. Now I'm gonna move forward with in front of the fan, get that set up before I gotta figure out the custom cut that's gonna have to go there. Okay, so now we got this piece here where I do have to slot out a section. It's about 7/8 of an inch over from that point to that point, and 14 inches long, and then it's about 4 1/4 inches from this piece to there. So I just slot out that one part with the jigsaw, and then that should fit in the other side, slot in the other side, and have the cutout for the fan. So I got the notch marked out. I'm just going to use the jigsaw with the clean wood blade on it, and we'll see how this goes. Pretty good.